All right, with that, I want to introduce today's guest, Jeff Redmon. Welcome, Jeff.
Thanks for having me again. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we had Jeff a couple of weeks ago, and you can get Jeff's contact info in the comments field. But if you're writing things down, it's info at MINN, big, BIG.com, and you'll learn more about MinBig coming up. Again, his contact info is in the comments field, and that's an opportunity for you to submit your questions. All right, Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. I know you were on a couple of weeks ago, but you have something else to talk to us about today. So tell us a little bit more about what you're up to.
Yeah, so as I shared a couple weeks ago, like many of my clients, entrepreneurs, we have trouble holding down a job, so we have to start our own companies. In 2001, after working at a big fancy law firm for over 20 years, I started my own small fancy law firm, Redmon Law, and that didn't keep my interest. So in 2004, I started leading CEO roundtables with an Inner Circle franchise. And in 2008, I added a third leg to my stool, business coaching. And all have a common theme of representing business owners actively involved in their companies. I really look forward to helping CEOs grow their business, and that's kind of been my passion. Also, kind of a serial volunteer. I chaired a local hospital board and took them from 30 million to 100 million in 5 years. Been on my local school board for 20 years. I've been very active in the Girl Scouts my whole career. I was on the national board of the Girl Scouts for 6 years back in the 90s. So I like to keep busy, lots of doing different things.
Yeah, and then in terms of the mix of legal with the coaching, with the CEO peer groups, I know you and I have done a lot of work together over the years, and big part of that is the kind of coaching, advising business side of our conversation. You know, if we end up talking for an hour, the actual nuts and bolts of the legal side might only be 15 minutes, and more the coaching, advising, almost mentoring with me ends up taking a bigger chunk of our time. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, that's what I enjoy. I really like being a trusted business advisor, and most of my legal conversations are really about the strategy of whatever it is they're going to have a contract on, and that's what I really enjoy. And you know, I have some relationships that have lasted over 30 years, so that's meaningful to me.
Well, thank you for what you've done for me, for my portfolio companies, for Brimacomb Capital. So thank you.
Yeah, that helped.
All right. So before we get to our event, let's talk about what you, our audience, can receive for your participation. Again, you can put questions into the comments field, and then also type in hashtag MIN, MINN, BIG, BIG. So again, hashtag MIN BIG. And the first 10 people who share their name, their email, and their mailing address will receive a copy of Jeff's new book, Cash, How 1 + 1 + 1 = 19. Again, type in hashtag MIN, MINN, BIG, BIG, and 10 winners will be chosen to receive Jeff's book. And for those of you who missed it, Jeff talked about 1 + 1 + 1 = 19 on a recent Clubby session that you can find on YouTube. So, or of course, the clubby.com website. So again, put in the hashtag MinBig and get a copy of Jeff's book. Okay, Jeff, let's get started. Over the years, I've had a bunch of business owners, CEOs, business leaders reach out to me about Clubby sponsoring a CEO roundtable. I've been a little reluctant to go there as there's so many roundtable offerings already out there, but I want everybody in our Clubby community to know that today I'm pleased to formally announce the collaboration, that of myself and the Clubby community with you, Jeff, to bring a new, unique, and valuable experience for CEOs and business owners and business leaders, Breakthrough Impact Group, again, also known as BIG. Jeff, tell us a little bit about the Breakthrough Impact Group and what caused you to create another roundtable offering.
Yeah, so I started doing roundtables in 2004, and I've enjoyed that immensely. I love working with groups. I love the peer interaction. But in 2008, I started business coaching, and when I was able to work with a company a little more in depth, my very first coaching client, we took from 8 million to 10 to 13 to 16 million, and we doubled that company in 3 years and only added one full-time equivalent. So that was really rewarding. So I've been looking for years, how would I combine a roundtable with a coaching? And so BiG joins those two together. There'll be a certain amount of individual coaching, but we'll be doing coaching more as a group. And I think through my roundtable experience, I've learned how to leverage the minds in the rooms to kind of co-elevate everybody. And so that's caused me to come up with BiG. And then, Rick, even with your help, tried to identify what was missing. What did the local roundtable groups not, what were business owners not getting that they were looking for? And so we really tried to hit those things. One of the things that was sort of realized is, okay, I meet with my mastermind group, my roundtable once a month, good for me, but how do I drive that learning in through my team? So we're adding a component of monthly workshops with your leadership team to drive those learnings and takeaways into your team. So a little something different that I think is important to have a powerful roundtable group that's more than just a coffee clutch. And not to say that inner circle, my inner circle, or Vistage or coffee clutches, but trying to bring really more purpose to that monthly interaction.
Yep, and it was easy for me to collaborate with you on this because you and I were already kind of doing this work together, and the taking the learnings and transferring it through the business leader into the company was a big part of what was exciting and interesting to me as well.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm
So
excited about the new opportunity. I just get charged as I'm talking to business owners. I get excited and charged about it. It's good stuff.
absolutely, absolutely. So the impetus for us talking about this was some commonalities between the pain that you were hearing most often from the business owners that you were talking to, as well as what I was hearing from the clubby community. So talk a little bit about the specific pain points that you've been hearing.
Well, most currently, the watchword of all business owners right now is uncertainty. They just don't know what's next. 2020 has had so many twists and turns, and kind of the attitude is, what's next? What else do we have to deal with? That is, I think, pervasive. The other thing, and then again, it's kind of my target market being the entrepreneur, they often don't have a leadership team that are confidants. They might have a CFO, an operations guy, but who can they really trust and talk to? So there's often loneliness at the top of businesses, and just being able to talk to somebody that's been there, done that. Um, Most important in any roundtable is identifying blind spots. We don't know what we don't know. And often that innocent question from someone that doesn't have a clue about your business causes your eyes to open and say, oh my God, how did I miss that? So loneliness. And then the final one that I'm hearing most common now, and I hesitate to use it because of the EOS, is traction. How do I get my strategic thinking and vision and get traction within my team to get it executed to move my company forward? It just, how come my people just don't seem to get it? And why is it not moving ahead as fast as I'd like it to? So those are a few things that are, I think, common themes. As I talk to coaches worldwide, as I do, from time to time, it's people, it's cash. Absolutely, right now, it's uncertainty, worldwide uncertainty. But those others are still hanging out there when you go to work and now I got to run my business despite the uncertainty.
Yeah, absolutely. And the team part, again, we've touched on that already twice now. You get a lot of people nodding their head, they get excited. New idea comes forward, and then a week goes by, and they're back to old habits. So pushing the learning through the business leader into the team is a big part of this.
I agree.
So talk a little bit about some of the differences of other CEO roundtable groups compared with BiG. You've touched on a couple of them, but talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I've been running roundtables for a long time, and so I'm, familiar. I'm familiar with a lot of the other formats, and there's great roundtable facilitators in our community. I think we're a community rich with roundtables. The one thing that I've wanted since I started coaching is, wouldn't it be great if everybody in the room had a similar planning format? So, and then we could co-elevate and raise the level of conversation. So if everybody has gone through a similar core customer exercise to really nail down their core customer, if now we can raise the conversation and challenge each other's having a common foundation. So I think having that roundtable and assuring that everybody in the room has a one-page plan that has their big, hairy, audacious goal. And one of the things I'm introducing is the 3-HAG, 3-year highly achievable goal. And we can talk about that later. And then their 1 year, and then let's just identify those 90-day priorities. That a lot of the coaching does that, but I want in the roundtable format, and then we'll hold ourselves accountable. So I would like to create a fierce culture of accountability where we're holding each other as CEOs, business leaders accountable. Last month, you said you were going to do this. You actually said this was the thing that would have the biggest impact on your business. Now, next month, did you do it? What happened? It's not about beating you up. It's like, what got in the way? Do you need to delegate something to make space to do that thing that you said would have the biggest impact? And so creating that culture of accountability, because we all have a similar platform, I think that will be a big advantage to the members of the group. And then we talked about driving it through the team. One of the things that we're offering is a monthly workshop that we'll do for all of the teams of the members. So we might take, as I said, core customer, and we'll do a workshop on core customer to help you better define your core customer. And then you'll break out into a group with just your team to work on it, come back, share, have ideas. Those will be recorded. So if you can't do it live, you can join in. And then a last thing that I'm really proud to offer, over my years, I've developed quite a network of contacts, and I'm calling it my circles of influence. On our website, we have about 10 people, Rick, you're included, but they're specialists. It might be HR, it might be marketing, it might be sales. And these people have graciously offered to take a phone call from any of our members and if they can answer that question over the phone, there's no cost to it. If it involves more, you guys figure out what the fees might going to be. But I think just having that access, when something pops up that I can talk to somebody that's an expert in the field, Rick and I would always be available to take those calls too. But there's lots of things that our network of our circles of influence may know better than us. And so I think that's another differentiator that I haven't heard other roundtable groups taking advantage of.
All right. Thanks for sharing that, because I think that's an important part of the story here. Reminder to everybody that you can submit your questions in the comment field for Jeff. Also, the hashtag today is MIN, M-I-N-N, BIG, and you can put your name and get a copy of Jeff's latest book, 1 + 1 + 1 = 19. And again, a good read there. If nothing else, learn a little bit about squeezing a little extra cash out of the business. So you talked about the planning part, and I know I was talking to a CEO yesterday. We're talking about some year-end stuff for 2020, talking about planning for 2021, and I steered him towards you, Jeff, because that planning component was going to be a real good fit for him. He's focused, as he has throughout his career, on the sales side and being externally maybe a little more interested in his business. And so that planning part is a key attribute of BiG. Talk a little bit about what's behind the curtain, the proverbial curtain for BiG.
Yeah, so I think it really is this coaching aspect. I'm involved in 2 different international coaching organizations, and combined there's 120 coaches, business international coaches, literally all over the world. And it's a great community. So and it's multi-leveled. So we have, my cash 1 + 1 + 1 = 19 is absolutely bare bones. Just get started. How do we find cash in our business? But we have 4 or 5 other levels as you get more sophisticated. And these 120 coaches are always building new tools and making them available to the community. So I really feel like I have this team behind me that helps any question that a client might have. I got a resource that I can help bring something to the table. The actual framework, and I think this 3 HAG way is really a unique thing. It's a game changer. In talking to clients, if you do EOS or even my Gravitas tool, you have a box that says, where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years? It's a box. No real, like, often it's just a wild ass guess where you want to be. And what 3HAG does is it establishes a 3-year highly achievable goal with a process to figure it out. And then you're evaluating that every quarter, so you have a rolling 36-month target. And it really leads to predictability. So as the first one may not be particularly close, we call it gutted out, but every month we learn more. It focuses on internal characteristics, the market, what do we learn in the marketplace, and in particular, the core customer and what they need in particular, and what you can offer that's different than your competitors. And we take a 3-year horizon to try to get there. And we really subscribe to Michael Porter. He's a early thought leader from the 70s, and he defines strategy as a unique and valuable position in the marketplace, supported by differentiating activities. So the differentiated activities is what make it unique, but what makes it valuable is those activities are hyper focused on the absolute needs of your core customer. That's what makes it valuable. And we do this 3-year time horizon that's just a little bit over what you can see, so that you can stretch yourself. And then you take that annual and quarterly planning with that 3-year horizon. So there's a lot behind the curtain that we're bringing to members of BiG that, my buddies that are doing coaching around the world, they're charging $150,000 a year to bring this one-on-one to their clients. And I'm trying to bring it to the small and mid-sized businesses that I have a passion for and make these tools available. So I think there's lots and lots behind the curtain that we'll be able to bring beyond, my simple mind. And so just lots of things that I think we can curate for our members.
So you mentioned EOS. So we've had a couple of very brilliant EOS folks in the clubby community, and have had different talks with them over the time. EOS certainly a great management system. Minneapolis seems to be almost ground zero for EOS. One of the questions that comes up from business owners as if they already have or have had an EOS coach. How does BiG work for them?
It's interesting. Michael, Gino Wickman in his book Traction introduced EOS, and locally Michael Payton. I mean, I
Okay, sorry about that. A little technical difficulties. I think we're back good. Jeff, we got the feed going a little better with you. Sorry to cut you off there, but maybe you could back up a couple of sentences and start back up there.
Yeah, so I think that EOS, Gino Wickman, Michael Payton locally have done a great job bringing EOS to the Twin Cities community. It's interesting, as I was working on defining my core customer, what came up for me was having alumni of EOS, because typically they have a great execution system where they are very good at doing their 90-day plans and driving it through their companies. I think one of the things that BiG will bring to the EOS company is that 3-year time horizon and a real purposeful system to figure out where you want to be in 3 years, that 3-year highly achievable goal. So I've even encouraged, and I haven't had anybody sign up yet with this, but if you have an EOS facilitator, you could do BiG and you would fit right in. There wouldn't be anything that maybe a little bit of nomenclature difference, but I know the EOS system. I could speak to it very well. And I think the EOS system is a great starter. If you talk to some of the better EOS implementers, they see their clients about a 2-year time horizon, and then they kind of outgrow the system. And not outgrow it, but they aren't adding new stuff to it. And so I think it would be the BiG membership, and the 3HAG system is a natural evolution to keep growing from an EOS platform. It's a great question, and we're very fortunate in this market to have many phenomenal EOS coaches.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you've touched on the 3HAG a couple of times. Maybe explain a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so one of my coaching friends, she's out of Vancouver, British Columbia, Shannon Susko. She has been in the top 100 business leaders in Canada for a number of years. She started 2 tech companies and grew them with great sales. And so now she does coaching and helps coach platforms. But she documented in a book called 3HAG Way this system that she applied in her companies to have great. I mean, she sold like 10x, 10 times EBITDA, because of the predictability that the 3HAG system brought to her company. When the prospective buyers looked at her 3-year projections, they just completely discounted them because that's what they tend to do. That's a projection. Well, she was able to find the 3HAG from 3 years before, and it was exactly where they said they would be. And so it gave credibility to their 3-year projection. And it's really that predictability. And, we look at internal, we have a system or a worksheet called Key Process Flow Map. What are you doing internally? What are your core competencies? What differentiates you? We look at we call it the map. Here's you in the center. Here's your end user, your core customer. What are the channels to get there? Who are your competitors? We start mapping out dollars to figure out where in the marketplace your sweet spot might be. If you try to be everything to everybody, you're everything to nobody. So we really try to sharpen where your market is. And then, as I mentioned, deep analysis of your core customer. And we have something called the Attribution Map, where we brainstorm and come up with what are the key needs of your target core customer, and how do you compare to your competitors on each of those, and where do we see some gaps that we might say, well, we're not there now, But if we took 3 years, we could get there. And with having that nailed down, we could assure to get to that 3-year number, revenue, profit, number of customers, whatever it might be. So that's the 3HAG way in a moment, but we've just found it to be super powerful. And as you do it over and over and you start learning where to look in the marketplace, how to talk to your customers to get a better impression of what their needs are, and kind of just listening, and the whole system causes you to listen in a way you hadn't listened before. And it's just been transformational. One of my good friends, he kind of started my coaching community 25 years ago, and he'd been doing this for, similar companies, some of the same companies for years and years. And when he was introduced to the 3HAG way, he converted all of his customers, to all of his clients, to this 3HAG way, and just seeing transformational results. So it's an exciting introduction to the marketplace. Shannon, her BHAG, or her BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, is to have 3HAG known as well as BHAG, which Jim Collins introduced years ago. So good stuff.
Very good stuff. Yeah, and I've introduced multiple of my portfolio companies to you because I believe in what you're doing. And so thank you for talking with them and incorporating them into what you're up to and what we're up to with BiG. So a reminder to everybody, you can hit the subscribe button. You can go in the comments field and submit questions for Jeff today. We'll get to those. And then lastly, you want a copy of his book, #min, MINN, BiG, which also is the website, .com. So you got a couple of things that you can do to interact with Jeff here today. All right. So how does a business owner know if the Breakthrough Impact Group is right for them?
Well, I think part of my learning is really defining my core customer that is probably not for everybody, and that's just fine. I think if you feel a little bit stuck in your business, you'd like to grow, you have passion for growth, but you're just not getting where you thought. I see a lot of EOS alumni that they've been doing EOS for 2 or 3 years, and they really thought that they would see some spectacular growth. And while the growth has been good, it's not quite what they had hoped for. The other thing that's common in my world is that business owner that just hasn't figured out life balance. When they're at work, they're worried what they're missing with their kids. And when they're home, they wonder who they're letting down at the office. And I don't think there's ever life balance, but how do you sort that out? And actually, it's interesting. It seems like a lot of work when you do all this planning, but it tends to focus. With that company that doubled in 3 years, they were working on 12 initiatives to grow their company, and we focused on 1. We took 11 things off the table, and they had so much more time because they weren't focused trying to chase a bunch of rabbit holes. So I think that life balance is a good place, that if people are kind of struggling with that, be something they should look at. And then, some people are one-on-one. They just don't like sharing with others. And, having run roundtables for a long time, those people that come to my roundtable, the folks in my room, if it's all about them, they're going to be bored for 90% of the time, because that time is about somebody else. But that person that's other-centered, that wants to learn from others, but is willing to give to others. It's interesting, when I close each one of my roundtables, I'll ask, hey, what are you taking away from today? And inevitably, the takeaway is not the question they came looking for an answer, but somebody else's question that they hadn't thought about asking themselves, and that was more impactful than the question that they thought was top of mind. So somebody that wants to grow, someone that their business and personal life is intertwined, and somebody really looking to co-elevate with peers to grow together. Those are the folks that I think are going to resonate with the BiG model the best.
Okay. And one of the questions that comes up is, how do business owners drive these learnings through to their team? I know you've brought it up a little bit. I hear it with my portfolio companies. Again, you get folks nodding their heads, saying yes. Everybody's all gung ho, and a week later it fizzles out. So, how do you, with BiG, drive these learnings through to the respective teams?
Yeah, so typical roundtable, we're going to do a half day, 7:30 to 11:30 type of thing with the roundtable facilitated. So that'll be a very purposeful, action-oriented meeting. Then on a monthly basis, we'll have these workshops, and your whole team will be invited, and they'll be recorded so you can go back and look at it again. But I think that is something that would be helpful. The other thing that I decided to do, and it wasn't in my original plan, but I want everybody to have a one-page plan. And typically, we would take 1 or 2 days with your leadership team to gut out a one-page plan. So what I decided to do with each new member, I'm doing it in a series of 2-hour bursts where, and it's probably taking 4 or 5 2-hour sessions. We're going to gut out a one-page plan with your team. So we're going to engage your team right from the beginning in helping build that plan. So it's their plan, not your plan. One of the members, he actually is a business coach who is an interim president of a company that has not been able to grow. And when he offered this to his team, they said, well, Pete, didn't we just do that, last year? And he said, well, I did it, but none of you participated. And so this forced everybody to participate, highly engaged. It just is a different atmosphere because his team's involved from the beginning. And so they'll see as he brings things back from his roundtable experience, as they see the workshops, it'll add to the base of knowledge that they already have. So they are getting some one-on-one coaching. And then I anticipate that on the quarterly, we'll have to do some sort of quarterly interaction to make sure that each one of the members' plans are on track and sharpened for the next quarter.
Okay.
Good question.
Yes. And speaking of questions, again, a reminder to everybody, put your questions into the comments field, subscribe and like the Clubby channel, as well as hashtag MinBig to get a copy of Jeff's book. All right. So speaking about books or maybe the latest podcast, how do you avoid kind of that flavor of the month feel with each new book and podcast that you talk about at MinBig?
Yeah, it's funny you ask that because I have heard feedback from my inner circle roundtables that my team hates when you have those meetings because I come back with a new idea and next month it's a different idea. So I hear you. That I think, I will read over 200 books this year because that's what I do. But I think the strategy here is that we have a system, that the learnings that we're bringing on a monthly basis are building on the plan and the system and format so you're learning a little bit more and learning a little bit more every month to sharpen that core customer, to sharpen your quarterly priorities by learning how to do it. We call them sprints. So that quarter is 13 weeks. So what's your sprint, the 13 weeks? Swim lanes are the longitudinal, what are we doing over 3 years? But so the learnings will all tie back to that system. And then we'll have COVID come up and we'll have to learn about PPP loans or something else, whatever is in the news, but hopefully there will be lots of learning, but it'll be all tied in through the one-page plan and having the team help build that one-page plan. It'll all tie in to build on what we've already set as a foundation.
So Jeff, you touched on, COVID. Actually had a question come in from longtime listener Eric. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate your support over the years. You've been a wonderful, wonderful contributor to the Club E community. So thanks for doing that. So Eric's question today was about COVID, the pandemic. What will BiG do to handle that? Are the meetings going to be in person or virtual or both, or how's that going to work?
Well, I was an in-person thing. I like giving people hugs and handshakes and pats on the back. So I've always been an in-person person, but the world has changed. And when I switched Inner Circle to remote, I actually found higher attendance, more engagement. People didn't have to drive to a meeting. It made it more efficient. So while I was building BiG, thinking that we would have a venue and we'd have all these people together, just the efficiency of Zoom. It's going to be virtual. The monthly meetings will be virtual. The workshops will be virtual. We can record it. So if your team can't be there, they can jump on and do it independently. Always available. I can answer questions if you have it. So it's going to be virtual. I hope that sometime in my lifetime we can have a gathering. And so we may have some events from time to time. So we look forward to shaking hands. It's interesting, in this year, I probably have 20 new clients that I've never met in person. It's everything has been remote. It just is the strangest thing for me, but we're going to be socially distanced. And I guarantee you on any Zoom call that we have, you will not have to wear a mask.
Absolutely. Again, reminder to people, submit their questions. Longtime listener Matt wants to know about the time commitment. You've mentioned a couple of different components of the system and what your plan is, but talk a little bit more about the time commitment that the CEOs and business leaders and their respective teams will have to commit to.
Yeah, I don't want people to leave with the impression that this is a magic bullet, that it ain't going to take work, because it's going to take some work. The roundtable will be a half a day. There won't be a lot of prep for that. We'll have some systems and that you'll come prepared to talk about. So there's a little bit there. That's a half a day a month. And that's really that half a day. Instead of working in your business, you're working on your business. We all need to find that time. Your team, probably a couple hours a month in these workshops. Some of them may be longer, some of them shorter, but I'm kind of focusing on it to get maximum impact, nothing more than 2 hours to keep people focused and working, and be a little learning, then workshop stuff. So that's for your team, 2 hours a month. And again, could do it if it doesn't fit your schedule. You can do it when it fits your team's schedule. And then this initial thing seems to be the biggest time commitment that people are concerned about. But we're doing 2-hour bursts. We do it on Zoom. I have a tool called Mural that's very interactive. That's basically newsprint with Post-its that the team does, that we go through the planning cycle using Mural, and 4 or 5 of those. So that's 8 to 10 hours. We schedule it when it fits you. And so we've seen to weave it in where it isn't too disruptive. In my experience so far is people are anxious to get to the next one rather than, let's do it next month. It's known like, how can we get these in quickly? Because in the normal coaching, we would do all of this in a day or 2. So I'm trying to break it down so it fits better. About 3 times a year, my coaching organization offers client summits. and I'm going to include passes to those where they have internationally recognized speakers. So those are usually a half a day, 3 or 4 times a year. So there is a time commitment. And then this planning stuff, you're going to have 90-day priorities and you're going to have stuff to do. And chances are it's going to be above and beyond what I call your damn dailies. These are going to be the focus things that your organization needs to do to have the biggest impact. And again, I'm hoping that in my experience is you actually do less to achieve more by getting everybody rowing in the same direction, working on the same priorities. And so there certainly is a time commitment, and but I think trying to make it as efficient and to implement big changes for your organization in an efficient manner.
All right. So getting close to the finish here, Jeff. Again, a reminder for everybody, if they want to learn more about the 1 + 1 + 1 = 19, you can catch that on either clubby.com or our YouTube channel. Catch that video. Again, you can submit the hashtag MinBig, give us your name and contact info address. We'll mail you a copy of his book. And then if we wanted to leave the audience with kind of one key takeaway here today, Jeff, what would that be?
Well, 2 kind of phrases. When's the best time to plant an oak tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. And so that march to the South Pole starts with the first step. And Amundsen taught us over Admiral Scott the 20-mile march. Let's march 20 miles every day. It's that planning and discipline to move a step every day. And so that's what I think. If people would just be disciplined about every day I'm making progress. If you make a 1% change a month, it would be transformational. If you can do 1% change a week, you have a 50% increase in the course of a year. So that, I think, is the one takeaway. Whether you do BiG, whether you do EOS, if you set out a plan and march towards that conclusion with focus and purpose, that's where you're going to have the biggest impact.
All right. Jeff, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, whether it's about MinBig or anything else, again, what's the email address?
Yeah, you can do info@minbig, MINNBIG.com. That will get right back to you from there. And again, reminder, if you want to put your name and address in the hashtag MinBig, we'll probably get you a copy of the book and some contact information there as well.
All right, great. Thank you very much for joining us, Jeff. Look forward to having you back and getting an update. And also thank you for the work that you do, both with me as well as with my portfolio companies.
Great. Thank you, Rick.